Welcome to my new, freshly made iNinja Strat tutorial guide. Basically, since my last few episodes that were no longer than 3 or 4 months ago, the game completely changed and its meta and its speedruns thanks to a new game-breaking glitch we found, which I will explain in a bit. This is the first episode, and I will cover the two most important glitches that you have to know before you do an iNinja speedrun. This will save you multiple minutes over multiple levels. How you use them in levels will be explained later on in level guides. However, you can watch a speedrun yourself and you will probably get the idea, but still I am going to take my time to properly explain them to you. I assume that you know iNinja well enough so that I don't have to tell you which level is which, how the basic structure of each level is, and how the general objective of them are. I'm assuming you got all of that known. If not, I recommend playing the game casually, one time, two times, three times before doing a speedrun, and then coming back to this guide. The two most important glitches in iNinja is the new infinite hovering glitch and chain clipping. Now infinite hovering is a weird name, so let's first try to break it down what happens. The basic idea is that this is a pit. A pit means that if I throw myself in it, nothing there I am going to be able to walk on, and nothing's going to push me to another direction. So it will look like this, right? Meanwhile, something like this is not a pit. I am going to fall on this. As you can see, I landed successfully on the ground. Something that also doesn't qualify as a pit is like the platforms that you see in clouding around. Not only the floating platforms that you do the, well, platforming in, but also this giant tower. If I push myself to it, you will see that it pushes me away. That means that this is a surface that has a texture beneath it. If I throw myself to something that's beneath a texture, this glitch will simply not work. That is the golden rule for this glitch to happen. You will have to be facing a pit that if I throw myself, there is absolutely nothing that is going to move me or make me able to walk. So let's go back to the debug mode and let's enter the same place that we used to be in. By the way, if you do not know how to use debug mode, you have a guide on my YouTube channel. I will probably put it on the same playlist as this tutorial so that people know how to properly implement it into practice as it is quite useful. So before I'm gonna kill these guys real quick so they don't disturb us. The basic idea of infinite hovering is as you're throwing yourself into a pit, right? As you're throwing yourself into it, you're going to start pressing the attack button repeatedly. Now, you can do this with the keyboard or with controller. I personally prefer to do it with keyboard, but I'm going to show it on controller to better teach you how to do it. So it has to be properly timed. If I wait too much, I am just going to fall, as you can see there. And if I wait too little, maybe like I will not get it. Like for there, I waited too little and it did not register properly. So basically, what you're going to have to find is that solid middle point. But you can start mashing early and you will not get affected for it. It looks something like this. And as you can see, I'm floating in the air and I can move freely as much as I want, as long as I am in a pit, because if I come back to a surface, well, that's a surface that is obvious that you can't walk on, but let's say something like this, I'm going to fall in the mud and I'm going to have to start doing it again, which is not ideal. So basically that's the golden rule of hovering. Now the mashing has to be rhythmic, as you can see. It is roughly at around I would say 320 BPM if you want to get a metronome to get a feel for how fast it can be. It can be a bit slower than this, for example. This is like 280 BPM, or it can be quite a bit faster. This is like 330, but that is the general range you should be aiming towards. If you do it too slowly, he will fall, for example, like that. And if you do it too quickly, like completely mashing without a sense of rhythm, you're way more likely to fall. Like, for example, what I did there. If you do it too fast, you're just not going to get anything good out of it. So what I recommend is a steady rhythm between 280 and 320 to 330 BPM. Now you can do everything while you're hovering as long as you don't stop doing it. You can like stop, move the camera without hovering, and then continuing. You have to do everything while you're hovering. That is the most important part. I fell into the surface here again, so we are back in bounds. And this leads me to my second part of the essentials. Well, keep in mind that we are going to be using infinite hovering when it comes to level, guys. But I want you to get a good feel for how it works before we get onto the juicier stuff. So I want you to just come into this place or any other pit in the game and just consistently throw yourself into a pit until you can pretty much 9 out of 10 times, 19 out of 20 maybe, get a hover going and have enough stamina to sustain it for around a minute. That is the basic starting point, okay? Now moving on to the other essential glitch is chain clipping. Now how does chain clipping work? Basically, chains have this weird thing to them that if you press and instantly let go, they get weird, as you can see here. Why is that? We really don't know, but if we add a pause buffer to it, we even gain additional height. Like the pause has to be timed around the time that the maximum height is achieved and the first frame that Ninja can connect with the chain. Now this unintended speed and momentum and height will make the game get confused. So in cases like this one where you have a chain that has a surface in between the chain and like the wall, you can get yourself tied up in the corner there and you will gain so much momentum to the place that you're pushing that you will eventually clip out of bounds. Let's get ourselves back in bounds. So basically, you want to grab whatever chain you want to clip with and do a pause buffer as you're connecting while you're pushing yourself to the place that you want to clip against. And then you're going to have to blindly use a hover or something like that to properly relocate yourself. Don't forget to use first person camera once you're off bounds because it will clip your camera out of bounds unless you're like swimming, which is something that you can do in right locks, but like I do not recommend thanks to the newer strats. So essentially you can use this chain. This is a really good chain to practice chain clipping, but it is a bit useless in the current meta for the speedrun. Maybe go to the very first mission, go to iNinja, open up the level and use the very first few chains that you got there, because that is like a staple case of chain clipping that we use, and it is on the very first level. And to add to that, it saves a good 40 seconds over doing the level normally. Normally, that is without doing another speedrun strat that we used to know of that is now obsolete. Well, I wouldn't say obsolete, but it is not as useful as it once was. So yeah, the basic idea is always the same. And you can do this as many times as you like. You have to get the rhythm down, of course. Using the pause button can be quite tricky, getting used to making fast mashing. Well, it's not mashing, it's more like two pauses, but hey, it can be difficult to some people. I know I had a hard time with it, so just take your time with this. Do this as many times or as little as you want, and then you can move on with the guide. But that's gonna be it for today, because these are basically the two easy, well, not easiest, the two most essential tricks if you want to take iNinja speedrunning seriously. If you want to learn more, you will have other parts where I will do more detailed guides per level. I don't discuss enemy clipping in this guide because they are so unique to each level that there is not a generic explanation that I can give to them. So with that being said, I hope you have a good night and I hope you learned something and I hope you stay safe. Cheers!